This is the weekend edition of Fear and Greed, Australia's most popular business podcast. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Adam Lang.
Good morning, Michael.
Now, Adam, our weekend show is all about the two of us nominating what we think is the biggest story of the week, the most remarkable story, the sleeper story, which is one that's maybe not getting the attention that it deserves or is going to be a bigger story down the track, and then our favourite story. But usually, obviously, it's me and Sean Aylmer going head-to-head, and you're the adjudicator, Adam. But with Sean on holidays, I actually personally like to think of him as being vanquished by my victory last week. You are up now, Adam, which means that we need a new adjudicator for this week. And we've had to go to the other side of the world to find one capable of filling your shoes, Adam. Tim Burrowes is a media commentator, the founder of Mumbrella, and now the managing partner of the newsletter Unmade. Tim Burrowes, joining us from the UK. Welcome to Fear and Greed.
Hey, Adam and Michael, what an absolute honour to be making at least a cameo appearance in the extended Fear and Greed universe.
Oh, this is awesome. Tim Burrowes, I am now feeling the pressure.
Well, I'm feeling the pressure as well, though, because of course I'm going to have to fill Adam's shoes, and he takes the judging role so seriously. So it's a bit like if you turned up in court for your first day as a judge, and then you looked in the dock, and there in the dock is the old judge, so who's now either a barrister or a defendant. I don't know which. So I'm feeling the pressure too, Adam.
Oh, in you we trust, Tim.
Have you got a scoring system in place, Tim? Because as you know, and actually, you know what? I hadn't intended to do this, but I will just make a brief mention of the conversation that you and I had when we were discussing you joining in on this podcast. You did say something that did concern me just a little bit. You said you acknowledged that Adam's shoes were very big shoes to fill. You said, though, that you usually agree with Adam's criteria for judging these categories, which is a concern because his criteria change every week. And so if by that you just mean that you're really excited about the ability to judge the categories on whatever you want to judge them on, then go for it. Because as we know, Adam has set a precedent, and it is a very messy, very kind of haphazard precedent.
I think of it as a sort of evolving precedent, but also his methodology. You know, we've gone from lined paper to, I think last week he had a blank piece of paper but a full scoring system, to I have in front of me literally the back of an envelope with Adam written on one side and Michael on the other. So I'm going to steal the marks out of 100 though, so I'm going to follow Adam's scoring system in that respect.
Well, that sounds good. Adam, are you happy with that system of judging? I just figure we better make it fair, just in case there's a decision that you don't agree with. I don't want any grounds for appeal afterwards.
No, there'll be no recriminations. Very happy with that.
Okie dokie. Well, I think we better get into it. And so we are going to go for the biggest story of the week. I always let Sean go first, even though I know it's usually to my own detriment because the first person usually gets the bigger story. I like to be the underdog in these things and kind of come from behind to win, like Eric the Eel. Actually, that's not a good analogy, is it?
He didn't come from behind to win.
Eric the Eel actually lost, didn't he?
He came from behind and stayed there.
Well, you know what? I'm sticking with it. I am not backing down because I never back down in the weekend edition. Adam, take it away. What's the biggest story this week?
All right, thank you. Thursday was a tough day for the S&P ASX 200, dropping 2%, but even bigger than that was the awful financial year our share market had in the financial year 2022, where the ASX 200 lost 10.2%. That is only the third time in the last 10 years that the markets have delivered a negative return. It's been a really bumpy ride, especially in the last 6 months when the index lost 12.6%, and the list of reasons is immense. Record levels of government stimulus was invested in the last 2 years, supply chains are still clogged, lockdowns have hopefully become a thing of the past, the war in Ukraine, inflation spiking, and interest rates climbing here and overseas. The uncertainty over just how high interest rates will have to go to get inflation back in that RBA target range of 2 to 3% is not known, and the uncertainty is causing everyone to be concerned. For me, that has to be the biggest story of the week. Michael?
Oh, that is a good story, but I just feel it's You need to move on, Adam. We're gonna look forward, because that's all about the year that's just been. And I'm very forward looking, because for me, it doesn't get much bigger than the week that we've had in global politics. And Australia has been right there in the thick of it. So we've had Prime Minister Anthony Albanese spending the week in Madrid for the biggest NATO summit ever. And we're not even a member. It kind of says something about Australia's standing, I think, in our region, that we've even been invited. While he was there, he met with the leaders of the UK, Italy, Germany, the European Commission, New Zealand, Japan, South Korea. Not bad, is it, for a Prime Minister 6 weeks in the job? NATO has presented a united front against Russia over Ukraine. They've declared China a threat for the first time. Albo, for his part, declared Australia had been economically coerced by China, warning Beijing to heed the lessons of the Ukraine conflict. China, of course, hit back, calling him ill-informed. That relationship seems like it's heading south quickly after some kind of glimmers of hope after the election. All in all, though, it has been a massive, massive week for global security, for geopolitical tension, which feeds, of course, into business right around the world, and then for good old Australia standing up on the world stage. That makes for a big, big story. What do you reckon, Tim?
I've just had 2 very impressive cases. Now, I must admit, firstly turning to Adam, I think that's a really good case, really well made. You know, it's a subject close to my heart, because it's what I'll be writing about for my weekend newsletter in Unmade, because the ASX media and marketing companies have done even worse. They've finished the financial year or just the half since the start of the year. Our index is down by 39% since January the 1st. So, well made argument by Adam there. But it was a bit predictable that was the argument. And we have talked a bit about the share prices in recent weeks. So that's weighing my thoughts slightly, which brings me on to Michael and his. An excellent case, because it's a little bit more of a stretch to make this one a business story. It's important. It's a big story. But I just don't think the reverberations have quite got there. So I've scored it closely, but I have given round 1 to Adam.
Wow. Ooh. What insight. Oh. That is really impressive judging, Tim.
Oh, God, Adam.
One thought I was preparing myself with the kind of level of flattery I know that we do get in the process of this judging, having listened to previous episodes, is the problem for Adam is he's got quite a high bar, because he's long, over more than a decade, had the reputation as the most courtly executive in media. So that's quite.
Did you say the most portly executive?
I did in fact say courtly, beginning with a C, but
oh, okay, sorry, my mistake. Sorry.
But yeah, I can understand the mistake, but yeah, so that just gives Adam a very high level of expectation anyway. So that was just basically baseline flattery I was expecting.
Gotcha.
Tim, you know what worries me most about what you just said is that it seems that you are judging these stories based on their business relevance, which actually makes a lot of sense, but really frightens me, because we've gotten used to the criteria, as I said, being very erratic and kind of changing week by week. And if you're just going a bit of a kind of a business purist, then I could be in a bit of trouble. But anyway, we will move on. And okay, Adam, 1-0, heading into most remarkable story of the week. I might kick this one off if that's all right.
Go right ahead, yeah.
The fact that an Australian bank can just shut down, hand back deposits and sell its loan portfolio, I think is pretty remarkable. I'm talking about Volt, the neobank that called it quits this week. Banking is such a tough space. And after failing to secure additional funding, Volt's now handing back $100 million in deposits to customers. You'd really have to say, wouldn't you, that the neobank experiment has failed, right? Because 4 were given licenses by APRA in 2019. Volt and Zinja are gone. 86,400 was sold to NAB. Judo Bank is still there, but its shares are pretty much half of what its peak was last year. If the goal was to improve competition in banking, I don't think it's worked. Having said that, there was some terrific research this week in a fantastic newsletter called Unmade. And it's
that's the flattery we like.
And it's very interesting that in the last 12 months, 4 of the 5 biggest advertisers in the home lending space were lenders other than the big 4 banks. So clearly there is a bit of competition, but neobanks aren't the ones to do it. Adam, over to you.
All right. Job vacancies. This is a great story, and we know when you have a job, it can affect how you feel about life. And so this is one that pervades all through society. This week, we had a record as well as a great contender for the most remarkable story of the week. The job vacancy data for May was released this week by the Australian Bureau of Statistics. In the history of measurement, this is one of the very few times that there are almost as many job vacancies in the country as there are people registering as unemployed. In the month of May 2022, there are an estimated 548,000 registered unemployed and 480,000 job vacancies. That's an average of 1.1 unemployed people per job vacancy. And to give you a reference point, in February 2020, at the earliest signs of the COVID pandemic, that ratio was 10 unemployed people to every job vacancy. Historically, that is significant, a massive positive. And just to kick off the new financial year, what a remarkable story.
Tim, please deliver a favourable judgment. And remember people's comments about certain newsletters in the middle of there.
You have both made it very hard. Now we'll start with Volt then. Now I must admit that was one of those stories when I first read it. Of course, the headline almost feels more dramatic than the detail when you think, oh, cripes, a bank has actually gone down. And of course, that wasn't quite the case. At least the depositors are getting their money back. But as Michael correctly says, we failed to get competition against the big 4. And that's really significant for the market. So that is remarkable. For me, when I read that story, that was a really remarkable moment. So I thought Adam's going to have a hard job. But then he made a brilliant case on the job vacancies. That is a big issue. It's going to be such a big lever to be pulled in terms of what that means for salary increase expectations, what that feeds through for inflation, where, of course, we're already on that tightrope. So, again, it's a tricky one, but I am going to give this one to Michael.
Oh, yes.
That hurts.
Oh, I like that. And all I had to do was drop in a gratuitous mention of Unmade into the middle of the story.
Oh, there was nothing gratuitous about it.
No.
Just you wait until I get to the next story. It's entirely about Unmade. No, it's not really, but maybe that would secure me the win. All right, we'll be back in a moment with the sleeper story of the week. All right, Adam, we are looking for the sleeper story of the week. So this is a story that's maybe not getting the attention that it deserves, or that might become a bigger story down the track. What was it for you this week?
All right, now this one is right in my wheelhouse. It has an acronym that I'll try to avoid: buy now, pay later, and regulation, another one of my nerdy passions. No wonder it's a sleeper. But here is the significance of the story to look out for in the coming year. This week, there was some very interesting data released by the Australian Finance Industry Association on buy now, pay later spending. Australians have spent $11.9 billion last financial year, more than double that spent 3 years earlier. 38% of those surveyed had used a buy now, pay later product, with a massive 5.9 million accounts. The Federal Minister for Financial Services, Stephen Jones, is flagging legislation within a year to regulate the industry. He has said he will consult the industry, but that target of having a regulation within a year is why this is my sleeper story nomination for the week. Look out, buy now, pay later.
I've got a few little questions about that, but I'm going to park them. It is not my job to poke holes in your story. That's Tim's job, and I'm sure you'll do a fantastic job of it, Tim. But the sleeper story for me this week is a bit of an unusual one in that I hope it's something that gets more traction further down the track. So Origin Energy was fined $17 million in the federal court this week after failing to look after customers who are suffering hardship. The Australian energy regulator took Origin to task over, I think it was about 100,000 breaches across almost 4 years. And the issue here is automation. Origin had automated processes in place that didn't take into account the hardship being suffered by customers. This was things like automatically increasing payments without considering whether the customer could actually pay it. The sleeper element in it is the comments that were made by the chair of the Australian energy regulator, Claire Savage, who warned that automation can be a dangerous substitute for human interaction when it comes to customers experiencing hardship. So maybe this could be a bit of a warning to others, to other companies, rushing to automate processes that really just need a human touch. Really, Tim, this is a pitch for jobs. It is a pitch for compassion.
Interesting, and two pitches, both about consumer protection, really, as well, which makes it even harder to call. So I'll look at Adam's first, as he went first. So I must admit, I'm deeply suspicious of the buy now, pay later sector. It feels to me it takes advantage of that miswiring of the human brain that, we want to kind of have our pleasure now and pay for our pleasure later. So I'm very excited by the idea of more regulation because I do think it needs it. And I thought that was a really great stat about the jump in consumer spending. So that's a very strong start. And I thought, Michael's going to have a bit of a tough one here. But then I found myself flashing back as you were talking, Michael. Oh, gosh, more than 30 years to my very first work experience job, when I got sent off for a few days to the accounts payable department of an electricity company in the UK.
Really?
And this was, really. And this is something slightly bizarre about the fact that I guess I was probably like 16 or something. I was just allowed to wander at will amongst the files and look at all the customer records, which I'm not sure they would let you do that now. And of course, these were paper files at this point. But and I've not thought about this in many, many years, but I just remember opening up one. And it was all handwritten notes on filing cards talking about, warning, this customer is 96 years old. Nobody write to her, even though her bill's overdue. We don't want to worry her, blah, 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 blah. So they basically, there were little personal handwritten notes about people to make sure that vulnerable customers were looked after. So, Michael really made me think of that in talking about the kind of move towards digitization and losing that. But I still gave it to Adam.
Oh. I needed to put more emotion into my final couple of lines. Would tears have helped? Do you think,
look, I it's hard to say, isn't it? But yeah, I think even the hardest of hearts can be melted sometimes, can't they?
Okay, all right. I think it's fantastic that I managed to accidentally strike on a story that connected with your youth. And that took minimal research to dig out that fact and figure out that you had in fact done that work experience there, but still it didn't connect. That's okay. That's okay. It's 2-1. But it was a good story, the buy now, pay later one. So well done, Adam.
Oh, thank you, Michael. Very magnanimous.
All right. Would you like to go first for the favourite story, Adam?
No, it's fair that you go first.
All right. Okay, I'll go first. The favourite story, I'll warn you, this one is a cracker. This is an absolute ripper of a story, and it's going to be a hard one to follow because this story has everything. It is a fantastic mystery. It's got technology. It's got international intrigue, and the best part of it is it's on the moon, right? So early in March, big piece of space junk hit the moon, and scientists spotted it. They knew it was going to hit the moon, and it did. They thought it was a spent rocket fuel cell, but this week, images from a NASA spacecraft show that there is a mysterious double crater on the surface of the moon. A spent rocket booster doesn't leave a double crater. Something carrying weight at both ends does. So what was it? An independent expert says that it was China, maybe part of an old lunar mission. NASA agrees. The best part is, of course, China's denying it. They say, no, it wasn't us. So now the geopolitical tensions, US v China, which obviously feed into so much trade tension and flow through to every business in the world, really, those geopolitical tensions have reached the moon.
Very good.
I had to work very hard there to link it back to business. And as I was getting to the end, I'm like, oh no, Tim's looking for a business link here. Okay, all right, here we go. Anyway, Adam, over to you. What's your favourite story of the week?
Okay, now this is one for the fans of music, film, gaming, and that has to be everyone. So that is why this is my nomination for the favourite story of the week. On Thursday, the headline in the Sydney Morning Herald read, "Coup for Sydney as leading culture festival South by Southwest heads down under." The coup was by Destination New South Wales, luring the internationally famous music, talk and film festival South by Southwest from Austin, Texas to Sydney in October 2023. Now, this is the first time the event has left Texas since starting in 1987, and there'll be over 1,000 experiences, speakers, panels, summits, artist performances, screenings, live gaming sessions, and a huge number of parties and business networking events. This is us selling our culture to the world through South by Southwest. It's a culture-led post-COVID comeback for Sydney and an international win for Australia. And that is why this is mine and should be everyone's favourite story of the week. Tim?
Those, again, are two really, really impressive cases. Now, Michael, I must confess, I, like you, love aviation and astronomy. So I kind of know that it wasn't that business-like, but you ticked a lot of boxes there, and you began to get there, I think, on the kind of the geotension side of it as well. So definitely in contention.
It feels like there's a but coming here.
Well, not so much, because you've made it very hard, because I must admit, again, I thought, well, Adam's not going to be able to come back on that one. But then South by Southwest, massive story from my world, because of course it covers the kind of the world of media and marketing as well as everything else, South by Southwest. So that it's a massive story. So I've actually, in the scoring on this one, I've ended up giving it a dead heat, actually.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so
there's no winner.
So there's no winner in this final one for favourite. So that means that we should go to an overall winner if you guys are curious.
I have to know.
Okay, Michael, I ended up giving 86 out of 100.
Oh, that's good. That sounds unbeatable.
Okay.
Adam, 87 out of 100.
Oh, that hurts so much.
Oh, that is just perfect.
It was very, very close.
Thank you very much, Tim Burrowes.
Oh, making a singular, one and only cameo on Fear and Greed's weekend edition.
Oh, I've blown it with the guest booker, haven't I?
Oh, no, that's fine. I've got a short memory, so it's okay. All right, thank you very much, Tim.
Hey, an absolute pleasure. Thank you for the invitation.
That was Tim Burrowes, media commentator and the managing partner of newsletter Unmade. Head to unmade.media to sign up. It is really a great read. And thank you very much, Adam.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you to Tim Burrowes. Genuinely, give Unmade a look. It is very insightful.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, make sure you're following the podcast. Join us online on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. And remember, if you've been enjoying Safe Word by Fear and Greed, which used to be our Sunday edition of Fear and Greed, it's no longer available in the Fear and Greed playlist. You can find it wherever you listen to podcasts, though. It is out every Thursday. Just search for Safe Word by Fear and Greed. I'm Michael Thompson. Have a great weekend.